Good evening. Today is a special episode of New Paradigms, and I am your host, Sargis Sangari. Today I have two returning guests who were on our show on the 26th of April, 2021, which was the 49th episode of New Paradigms. At that time, we were focusing on exposing the Chinese Communist Party tech spies and allegations of a possible backdoor when it comes to the theft of critical U.S. tech. Before we conduct our deep dive this time and part two of our discussion on these topics and important issues, it is important to introduce our guests to our viewers one more time. My first guest, of course, is Ms. Moe Fukada, who is a Japanese journalist and also author and an IT analyst. And she is being joined by Mr. Jason Ho, who was the lead designer of the F-35 flight control and also imagery display systems. Moe received her Bachelor of Arts degree in Global Political Economy from Waseda University in Japan. Upon graduation, she worked for Diamond Financial Research as an analyst before joining Barclays Capital Investment Banking Group in Japan. She was a consultant for the Ravatron LLC, and she worked her way up into becoming the CEO for the company. So Ravatron LLC is a leading artificial intelligence AI solutions company, which is focusing on developing revolutionary real-time AI applications. The company was founded by a team of veteran pioneers in large-scale computer chip design to exploit the breakthrough designs and performance characteristics of the latest innovations in the real-time AI world. Ms. Moe was a finalist in the Women's Entrepreneurship contest, which was sponsored by the Japanese government in 2012. She also has published numerous books on financial techniques based on fundamental and statistic analysis. Her Japanese books include Japan's IT Industry is Stolen by China, The Truth of 5G Revolution, Truth of US-China AI War, Impact of Quantum Computers, and finally, Social Media and Economic War. Mr. Jason Ho is a 20-year veteran experience in the integrated circuit IC design, and has been awarded multiple worldwide patents for innovations in the field of chip design, computer architecture, and network security. Before joining Ravatron LLC, Mr. O was the CEO of MAI Logic Incorporated, where he raised almost $10 million in funding and led the company to successfully introduced several multi-million gate ICs and worked with several global companies such as IBM, Motorola, TI, and Rockwell Collins. MAI Logic, formerly known as Mentor Arc Incorporated, is an advanced IC design company. Before MAI Logic, he also held several design engineering positions with LSI Logic, Altos Computer, Chip and Technology, and Unitech. Jason received his Master of Science degree in Electronic Engineering from Pennsylvania State University and a Bachelor of Science in Electronic Engineering in Taiwan in 1984. Jason and Ma, is good to have you here again as part two of our discussion, specifically focusing on China's theft of some critical infrastructure information that we need to keep our nation secure. The Chinese Communist Party's tech spies are operating here, as we know, and we're going to discuss the deep dive into allegations of the possible backdoor of theft of critical U.S. tech. And it's good to have you back here again with us.
Appreciate to have us back here again. And also, I appreciate you have time and Colonel, you came to sit down with us. We spend a very valuable time together. I appreciate that. And this is our honor and our pleasure.
No, it's good to. Is good, and it was my pleasure to have had the opportunity. For our viewers who didn't know, Jason is referring to the fact that I did make a trip out to see them since our last episode, and we've had an opportunity to sit down and talk face to face. Jason and Ma, let's start with you. If you could tell us about specifically a little bit more of a deep dive on these allegations of the possible backdoors. How do they work? What are some of the issues we got to be aware of? And what do you think is the steps we have to take to inform our governments, both in Japan and the U.S., to make sure that China does not use those backdoors to steal important critical technology from both of us?
Because those Taiwanese companies, semiconductor companies working together and steal technology or transfer technology from Japan to China, and they use those technology to build a weapon for PLA. And two years ago, I reported about one of the Taiwanese company would buy a Panasonic semiconductor who produce a radar chip for U.S. military, especially for F-35. That company called Tower Jet Panasonic Semiconductor, and that was going to sell to Taiwanese company. That company is a very close relationship with PLA. That's why I reported about it to a Japanese government and told them they are the people stole technology from us and sold that to a PLA. That technology supposed to deliver to U.S. military as a F-35 flight controller. So there is a group of people working as a Taiwanese semiconductor companies and working for PLA. So I recommend Japanese government not to allow Panasonic to sell those Panasonic semiconductor company to the Taiwanese company, but they allow it, and that critical radar chip technology went to China. And now TSMC is trying to come to Japan. They are trying to transfer technology, SME technology, semiconductor manufacturing technology to China. That's why I talked to Japanese politicians about it, but they don't believe me. They just asked me to provide hard evidence they are working with PLA.
I know that we got some slides that we populated here that we're going to be showing. Ma, you're going to be speaking on those specific slides, but I wanted to initially get to Jason. Jason, this first slide that we have up here, can you tell us a little bit about TSMC and explain a little bit about what that company is for the viewers who do not know?
Sure, and the people not familiar with in the IT industry or semiconductor, allow me to explain. The TSMC means Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporations. And those companies, and especially those in Taiwan in control of semiconductor industry, and they are coming from China. Actually, they are not as a traditional Taiwanese. So they are the key person, and this is the Winbang chairman, the CEO, and they specialize in the memory ICs. And this company has very close tie to Huawei, and very few people knows. So the company of Winbang, this company name, and the company of Huawei acting together actually is a Chinese idiom, means a peaceful, a prosperous Chinese race, and also can be extended. And China eventually not only have a very prosperous and development, also eventually they will rule the world.
Ma, I know that we have another slide here, and Jason, you guys can pick and choose. I know, Ma, these are the slides you provided us, but as we had discussed last time, it seems that all these companies, as you laid out, are really tied to each other through family relations. Give us a bit more of a deep dive on this specifically, so that our viewers know exactly how these companies work. And unfortunately, it seems that you have brought that to attention of the Japanese government to ensure that Japanese companies do not sell to these companies that are really tied to the Chinese Communist Party. But unfortunately, in this case, it may not have gone as we would have hoped.
Yes, yes. I reported about Panasonic Semiconductors. They provide radar chip to U.S. military as a tower jet semiconductor. So they shouldn't allow Panasonic to sell the Panasonic semiconductor to Nuvoton technology.
So maybe people doesn't realize those Taiwanese semiconductor companies, and it looks like it's Taiwan company, but the people, as shown on the previous slide, and actually they have a very close family ties, and they are original Chinese and separated after World War II. So they are a very close group of people together, and those people and not only own those important companies in Taiwan, also they help China to shape up their semiconductor industry. And most people in the dealing and doing the important semiconductor development in China, actually, there's a people from Taiwan. And
I
so
know that
this is
here.
Please.
Yeah, I know that we were showing that one slide. If you could go back to it, and Ma, you had pretty much tied the fact that there were that there were Chinese spies operating in Japan. I know in that previous slide, if you can bring back up again, the one that has Mr. F's name on it, and is unfortunate that this slide right here is unfortunate that we're not able to really get the public to realize these close ties that these families have. A lot of this information is really open source. There's nothing secret here. But if you could talk a little bit more about that and tell us where the specifics of those ties are.
And so, let me allow me, because a lot of is Chinese and entity names is hard for Moe to explain. So let me bring that up. And basically, and the people and Moe has discovered, he's carried two identities. It's not a person with two nationalities. That's very common, and especially as people become U.S. citizens. But this is a person have a complete two different identities and related to each other. One is Chinese identity, is pure Chinese. And most amazingly, his father is working extremely important position developing the DF-17 and especially, and the US government concerned about the hypersonic and the missiles aiming not only Japan, Taiwan, but also US. But that person also carried another set of identity as a Japanese. So one set is a pure Chinese and the generation of Chinese. Another identity is the Japanese and the generation of Japanese. And then those people work with Taiwanese semiconductor industry and coming to Japan and to acquire Panasonic semiconductor, which is very strategic, a very, very important position in the defense industry. And they took over this company extremely low price. And that's what the Moe tried to report to the Japanese government, unfortunately. And most people concept is Taiwan is rival to China. And why you want to against a Taiwanese company to take over? Because, and especially those Taiwanese company, when they came to Japan, they want to say, oh, we're going to help Japan to build a supply chain without the China factor to fight against China together with Japanese. But actually, those people, they are sitting on the two sides. And one side in China, helping China build their semiconductor and development technologies. And the other side is in Taiwan, acting like they're against China. so they can infiltrate Japan. So that's what Moe has discovered, and she has found particular and also specific ties of those people, how they work in high position in the Chinese government, also how they obtain another set of identity in Japan to help those Taiwanese semiconductor companies to come to Japan to take over Japanese most precious, most important defense technology.
Yeah, it is unfortunate if you think about it, because from an American perspective, when you see something that says Toshiba, you see something that says Panasonic, you're not relaying it to any ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Unfortunately, Japan has been squeezed so much since the 80s that it's really hardly able to even project itself economically in certain areas that it needs to include the fact that from the Near East Center for Strategic Engagement, we really look at how Japan, Korea, or South Korea, I should say in this case, some of our allies are very dependent on the natural resources of the Middle East, and now they're being squeezed. And once they get squeezed, they end up having to make these type of trade deals under really kind of a duress, I would say, rather than anything else. I know that last show we had talked about the fact that President Biden had met with the Prime Minister of Japan and actually encouraged him to move forward in working with these Taiwanese companies. But I guess from what you're leading to and what you're saying, if they followed what was discussed between President Biden and also Prime Minister of Japan, it could be that not just the near future, in the long term, you could literally be actually backdooring yourself without knowing to Chinese influence, especially with the Chinese Communist Party.
Definitely, because it's very hard for people to understand, as I explained in last episode. And those companies in Taiwan or in China, they are different type of organizations. And usually most US people understand company just a commercial entity. But in China or in Taiwan, the company actually, there's a lot of function beyond the regular commercial activities. And everyone knows China has law, and the Communist Party can use any company in China, the technology developed, and they can take it for the PRA development, for the military use. And in Taiwan, and the company usually is also, it's a gray area. What does a company means? Actually, and the company only controlled by the few families. Those families came to the Taiwan after the World War II, and those families just sitting in power, control those industries, and they are blurring the line, and as a company or as an entity, organization, and then it's very hard for people from outside to realize the differences.
Jason Ma, we got a number of slide decks. I'm going to make sure we go through them. Jason, we'll start with your slides. I think we pretty much went through Ma's slides on this one. But give us a quick review of what we're looking at, especially with the case that you're laying out with the possible allegations that these back doors are open and we have to try our best to be able to block them.
For me, this is a live example because the F-35 technology has been stolen to China. This is a fact, no longer a story. And the US government has been public and discussed and explained. China has learned everything about the US and the F-35 technology. So the original goal is to make F-35 a most advanced jet fighter with three distinct functions. First, also it's quite aggressive. And they want to put optical computers, optical electronic integrated computers into the Joint Strike Fighter. And also they want to put the advanced AI system to make a Joint Strike Fighter can fly with drones and together to expand their fighting ability. And the third, the Joint Strike Fighter has a hologram technology. And so everyone knows China successfully obtained the F-35 technology. There's a numerous report about it, about it. But the most people still think the F-35 stolen is through the electronic hacking or through the espionage. But as I explained in the next episode, it's more sophisticated than that, because China claims that their counterfeit F-35, J-31, is much better than F-35. They brag about it, and they are very proud of their ability. And also, most importantly, China announced the J-31 is only about 2 years behind F-35. It's about the same time. So it's more than just a counterfeit. Actually, this is a war. It's more like, Mao Zedong has mentioned, and restricted warfare. So when the J-20 announced they copied a radar system, and people just realized this identical to the F-35 design, and especially talk about the smart helmet, the power consumption, the specifications, and the details, features, identical to F-35. So those events is not just a simple stealing. And because when they show those identical features from fuselage, from silicon photonics, from fiber optical communication systems, from many, many detailed specifications, when they show so much and identical designs, it means what China has copied is not just F-35 design itself. China has copied is complete the Air Force and the system based on F-35, not only the airplane itself, but also the technology, the supply, all the work plan and all the function of those, and they had taken over those in China. So this is the most, I think, most incredible and the most terrible case ever happened. So,
well, I think if you go back to it, 5 years ago, they had made a decision to modernize their military. And, we had an opportunity then to be able to have some effects on them in order to ensure that this process was controlled. Unfortunately, it seems like we never took any steps to how to address the issues of China wanting to modernize their military. And they just continued exploiting American companies in order to be able to control the components of each. And so really it's kind of a system of systems approach, using their information operations, and at the same time just literally stealing information from you. As you're saying that, it's not just the equipment that they have in this case, stealing designs off the F-35, it's also how they've actually were able to adjust the rest of the military and their platforms to be able to support that particular fighter jet. That means that the steal is much more deeper than would have ever expected. I know we're looking only at allegations, but it seems like most of the information we've talked about has been at least discussed in most open sources. Continue, Jason. Give us a little bit more about why we were not able to counter what China is doing when it comes to this steal of technology.
Because there's a key difference for most US people. We have our personal life, and we have our job. We know that's very different. But in Chinese or in Taiwanese, those people, the concept, not the same. For them, the war is their life. Rule the world is the goal of their life. So, and they are designed, they are living in the status and constantly in war. So this is a new type of the thinking, the mindset. It's very confusing. That's also the reason and caught a lot of people unguarded and have them to take chance, not only stealing the design, but stealing the system. So in my case, we spend so much effort, so much energy. We develop our technology for F-35. We work with IBM, we work with Texas Instruments, we work with many important partners to put a system together to put a jet fighter possible, fly in the sky, and with the specifications, with features, and never possible in the past. But now everything went to China, and just as easy like air, wind blow to the China. And we have traced back and because myself has been the victim of this case for 25 years. And it makes me developing the F-35 technology becoming a punishment of my life. And what the strategy they use is not a traditional and business activities. It's not a common knowledge like just technology stealing. There's a much more deeper ways to take the not only technology, but capable of complete copying the system, duplicate the environment platform from the US to China.
Well, it's not just that they're duplicating U.S. systems from China. They're affecting our companies, but at the same time, those companies have individuals in them, just like you. I mean, you worked hard in order to be able to get those patents put out there, and if they're going to come in and just steal the patents that you created, not only does it take away from your livelihood, it takes away from the possibility of the future of you and your family, and especially when it comes to the nation's future and what it wants to do with that particular technology. And because if they steal it, they could basically simply in a quick turnaround null and void what we had worked on so many years on so many different platforms. And you know what, once they take that away, they're really literally taking almost your life away. And I know that in the past, and I don't know if you want to talk about it a little bit, but I know that your life has been threatened and you've had gone through a lot of difficulties. I know that Moe, you're always constantly under attacks when it comes to social media, that you have a hard time even in Japan being able to defend your own country because your own countrymen in your own country sometimes come after you. And, you know, at the end, as we said in the last broadcast, unfortunately, money talks. And sometimes in political arenas, whether it be in our country or other countries, it seems that that is the main driving point. But I'll give you an opportunity, I'll give you a last chance here to kind of talk a little bit more about those things and actual personal effects on you all. And then we'll try to do a closeout on how we might be able to counter this as much as possible.
Sure. What they have been doing, and it's not just people to think a company has to make money, make profit. For them, actually, it's engaged in war. So this is a timeline how they took the F-35 technology away. You can see how sophisticated it is. And what the strategy they use, first, they signed a license agreement with us. So you can see they have a license agreement, looks like healthy business engagement. But after they sign the agreement, they have a way to open your door. They come to your company to inspect everything. Then immediately they make a criminal complaint against you. They say you are fraud, you don't have technology. Even we have those contracts with Lockheed Martin, with all the defense primes. So, and they will immediately says your company has no credit, and they will try to talk to investors. You cannot invest this company. They use their financial power and they use their influence in politics. They use their attorneys working as a group and filing numerous lawsuits to get our technology. So they have invented a word they call sue to own. So even the Lockheed Martin, the F-35 team wrote a letter to Taiwanese president and wrote to the Taiwan and the AIT, that's American, just like American ambassador in the Taiwan. They wrote a letter to them warning, that's more than 20 years ago, about the TSMC. But still, this year, this moment, TSMC is causing the problem of U.S. national security crisis. So this is an event that lasts for more than decades. That's because they use whatever possible ways, possible means, just to get the technology, to get the system duplicated. That's their purpose.
Moe, let me get back to you. What do you want from your government in Japan? What do you want them as the most simplest thing to try to do to maybe listen or counter what is happening in Japan?
I just want simply this simply I want my government to listen to my story, but interference from Chinese who acting as living as Japanese. Those Chinese had Japanese identities. They interfere whatever I do for government, and they say I am China spy, so they shouldn't listen to me. That's why Japanese government is difficult for them to trust me, and also you know uh, they stole F-35 technology from him, and 2 years ago, those Taiwanese company would buy Panasonic semiconductor. Then I realized they were missing radar technology for their J-20 or J-31. That is the reason they had to buy Towards Panasonic semiconductor from Panasonic. I don't want the PLA to raise their power more than that. That's why I talk to government people. I talked to a very important person from cabinet, but they didn't listen to me. They just allowed Panasonic to sell the towards Panasonic semiconductor to that Taiwanese company working with PLA. Now Japanese self-defense force cannot buy radar chip from that company, but that company is delivered to PLA, same chip as F-35 has. I just wanted to stop it. I don't need any money. I need nothing, but I just want to stop it. I just want to protect my country. But
You're just a
it's
Japanese
difficult
patriot
for me.
who's trying to protect Japan in the long run. So you've done your piece. You've told the government. It's up to them to try to figure out what they need to do from their behalf. Jason, we mentioned Pier 8. Could you get a little bit more into the details as far as the Pier 8 is concerned? And then it's got to be tough. I can just imagine trying to take something like this to the courts and try to fight these individuals, these multi-billion-dollar companies, when it comes to trying to get your own intellectual property back. And tell us a little bit about that, if you could.
Sure. For the PRA and how they develop their technology so quickly, and how becoming a threat to the U.S., a major threat. And these changes and never has ever been discussed or openly talked, and how those change possibly happen so quickly. And all the people now, unfortunately, just need to take the fact. Now the PRA is so strong, their technology is the best. And the DOD talk about it, and the government talk about it, the Senate talk about it. Now the China AI technology is even maybe more powerful than the US. And all the supercomputing power now becoming the best in China. The radar system now becoming the best in China. But how that happened, no one really want to talk about it in details. And they just simple put a word, it's stealing. But how they steal? How they developed? Because defense system is very different than the commercial product. Commercial product, maybe I want to copy something and like a cell phone, like a computer, and that's straightforward and easy. But the PLA is an army. They are killing people. They can invade to other countries. They can take their power. They can take their will. They can take a slavery system over the world. This is different. This is not a company just try to make money. This is a war machine, killing people, slave people. Just look at the Xinjiang, just look at the Uyghur, and what have happened to them. So, and what I try to help and to let the viewer understand, and I hope in the future we have a chance to talk about the details, is how PLA to get those advanced technology and plus the platform to run it And the third, the system to make it happen. And fourth, the political surroundings allowed it to have PRA to grow unnoticed, unchecked, until it becoming a threat, becoming a monster. People realize it's too difficult, too large, it's too impossible to contain.
Well, look, Ma, Jason, I commend you both for working together and at least getting out there, putting the word out. I know you guys are under constant attacks at every level. You have literally put your lives in jeopardy. I'm glad I had an opportunity to come out, sit down, and meet with both of you since our last discussion. And I got to tell you, the stuff that I saw that we can't even discuss here in the open source is absolutely amazing, and it is really astonishing that we have allowed the Chinese government to steal even our defensive technology in the way they do, which most of us should have been able to do the link analysis if you had any level of counterintelligence capability. Mao, I know that we put the QR code there, and for our viewers, they know how it works. If you just aim your camera at it, it's going to take you directly to Ma's site, and you can follow her work to see what she's trying to do. And we're going to do what we can from our end to try to help as much as possible to at least get you in front of the right people. And hopefully they'll listen and do their best to be able to protect not just the United States, but Japan itself. I will give you both the last words. I commend you again for at least coming out and talking about these allocations. I think you've done a pretty good job as far as laying out the case from your perspective. And the door is open. If any of the companies want to come on the show, sit down and present their case, they have the right to do so. I doubt that they're going to be sitting here and discussing and countering what you all have done with this type of an investigating reporting that you have presented to our viewers today. Jason and Ma, I give you all the last word here.
Thank you to listen to my story, and I hope some people in US can understand my difficult situation. My government turned out to believe in me, and I just want to protect my country. I just want to stop transfer military technology to China. That's all. Thank you.
And for myself, and 2 years ago, 5 years ago, many people think a PRA can threat a Chinese army, a Chinese military power can threat the US. That's a joke. That's impossible. Whoever think about it, and that's ridiculous. Now it's happening. So my last word is, I hope people can remember one word. Now Chinese talk about loudly, but unfortunately the media not pay attention to it. Now have a new name called Chi-America. Chi-America. China eventually will take the US and rename it a united China-America together called Chi-America. It is coming. It is reality. And 20 years ago, I talked about China is going to develop the most advanced and fighter jet system and still in the F-35. No one believed. But I hope, and based on the previous experience, people remember now that China is talking about the Chi-America. And trust me, many, many high-level people in China, they honestly believe Chi-America will becoming a truth, becoming a fact in the near future.
Well, Jason, I hope that if you get your day in court, that won't happen. Hopefully we could get some of those patents back that were, you're saying, stolen from you. And again, I can just imagine one individual trying to get a lawyer to represent them where the other party can come and buy those lawyers off in 2 seconds. But we're going to try our best. We give you an opportunity on this platform and other platforms to kind of lay out the case. As an American serviceman who's spent 20 years in the military, I know the first time that I was briefed on China's ability to conduct airfield operations was prior to September 11th. And we were surprised, to be honest, that that much of transfer of technology had taken place at that time. where initially they were able to do what our Rangers were able to do only. And today they have sophisticated equipment technologies to include chip technologies and future technologies that seems like they have just literally stolen from our Department of Defense and our security apparatus. With that said, we're going to bring you guys back again. God bless you all for what you've been doing, and keep us updated on what the progress is.
Sure. Appreciate.
Thank you.
With that said, there's new paradigms.